Welcome to the Bill Levinson Experience, a motivational podcast relating to the insurance brokerage industry and business in general. And now, here's Bill Levinson.
Welcome, everyone, to the Bill Levinson Experience podcast. Here we are in the middle of May during this whole COVID-19 pandemic. Looks like we're coming out of the other side of it now. Thank God. Things are getting better and better and starting to reopen. If you're listening to this now, in fact, in the month of May, you're probably dealing with some of these same issues. If you're listening to this post-corona, then you can definitely learn some lessons from all of this. And that also brings up a great point before I introduce our featured guest speaker. I think it's important to just talk about, what's going on right now in our industry, what we're seeing from various insurance companies, what we're seeing from our agents, what we're seeing from our agents' prospects. I think it's a very interesting take. And like I already said, there's so many lessons to be learned from all of this. And I think that all of us, can take a look in the mirror and say, if I would have done this or I could have done that, if I knew this was coming, I could have positioned things differently in my business. And that's why I always like to say, you look at the past and say, okay, scratch your head. What can I do different moving forward? From an insurance carrier's perspective, from an IMO's perspective, from an agency's perspective, and of course an agent and a consumer's perspective. So great stuff that we're going to share today. And that brings me to our featured guest speaker today. And the reason why we wanted Ken French to join us and speak for 30, 45 minutes is because a lot of agents are coming to us right now, okay? And you think about this. We've been preaching technology and social media marketing and use our website and CRM tool and e-apps for 10, 15, 20 years now. And a lot of agents said, I have my yellow legal pad and my rate book, and this is the way I've been doing things, and I'm not going to change. Okay, and you fast forward to today, okay, if you look at that typical agent, say in the 90s, and you look at the typical agent in 2020, almost halfway through the year, it's a totally different landscape. That same agent with his yellow legal pad and rate book is forced now to use social media. They're forced to use a website. They're forced to start driving traffic through e-blasts, okay, utilizing all of the technology that, let's say, Levinson, an IMO offers, and, of course, what the carriers offer. They don't have a choice anymore. Unfortunately, this has kind of kicked everyone in the you-know-what and said, you better get moving forward here and leverage technology because you're going to go literally in reverse. They always say it's like riding a horse around New York City in 2020. It just doesn't happen anymore. This is a new world. And this whole COVID-19 issue has pushed everyone from the insurance carriers down into forward thinking. So anyway, I can't stress it enough. And, I wanted Ken to come on because Ken is actually a CEO of his own third-party marketing company that builds websites, has an awesome social media marketing platform. He also does some coaching for agents to run their own Facebook ads, which I think is very important, especially during this time and era that we're all living through right now. So we teamed up with Ken, long story short, it's been about a month now. And I've been doing a lot of research, and of course I vetted Ken and his company inside and out. And he literally gets it just like I do. And it's very hard to find that this day and age, okay? Either I feel like you get it or you don't. And we're about the same age. And it's funny. It's a crazy story, and I'll let him share it. But, he started also, he was in the insurance business with his dad, just like me. So I think it's a great story to share with you all. And then fast forward now where he 100% focuses on helping agents with websites and social media marketing. So anyway, he's got some great reviews online. He has his own podcast, great company. He's been doing this for a long time now. And we've worked with other companies in the past. And what's happened, and it's unfortunate, but obviously we have over 19,000 agents. And for Ken, or someone like Ken, to do a great job, he has to physically touch every agent. And that could be very challenging. Okay, let's face it. We have a lot of time wasters. We have a lot of agents that tell you that they're a MDRT type of agent and they're going to set the world on fire. And next thing you know, they write one application and they drop off after 30 days, and that's the end of it. So anyway, that is the biggest challenge for someone like Levinson, and of course, more important, someone like Ken and his company. So anyway, he figured out a system that works where he does a personal interview with each agent and then builds their marketing platform and website. There's no $1,000 activation fee. There's no 10-year contract to sign. There's a co-op discounted price if you're an active Levinson agent. Anyway, it's a great story, a great strategy, and in my opinion, the only way for agents to build and supplement their income moving forward. So the timing couldn't be better. So first off, I want to introduce Ken, and I want to thank you for joining us today, Ken, and diving in.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be on.
Yeah, well, we all appreciate it. We have, and just to recap, we have a lot of agents out there all over the country. In fact, some of our audience are not even in the insurance business. We have a lot of attorneys, CPAs, a lot of my friends, family from all over the country. We have a great following, but I think everyone's going to walk away with some nuggets to help them in their everyday business life. So, okay, real quick, I always say this, but take out your pen and paper, jot down notes, questions, comments, because we want to hear from you after you listen, okay? And by the way, now everybody's forced to be home right now, so there is no better time for you all to learn. And then, of course, reach out to us, and we will make sure that if you want to use the platform, we will get you up and running in no time. Okay, so I want to start real quick, Ken, with a question. If you can just share with the audience, some background, maybe, what led you to the place you are now with Snoozy and what you see the vision to be for the company and yourself.
Sure. So I'll kind of start from the beginning. I grew up in North New Jersey, and somewhere along the way kind of ended up in college in Western New York, and always kind of studied marketing. I've always been a marketing kind of guy, not so much a numbers guy, but a marketing guy, just kind of always pretty fascinated with technology. And long story short, I ended up in kind of the complete opposite job. I ended up on the New York Stock Exchange working for a specialist firm. And I interned there in the late 90s and was actually brought in full-time after school. And I was that guy on CNBC, hitting keyboards and going crazy with everyone yelling at me. And long story short, was there for 9/11. And after 9/11 happened, kind of realized real quick that working in the city wasn't for me. So my father, who had been in the insurance business since pretty much the mid-'70s, when he married my mom, obviously my grandfather said, look, you need a real job and you're going to work for me. He kind of pulled him in the 70s and, obviously educated him. And as time went on, that company kind of morphed into various different companies. But by the early 90s, they had what you would call a general agency, a wholesaler that really focused on helping independent agents who were selling small group health insurance. And as time went on, that company grew and grew and grew. And when I was kind of deciding to kind of get out of the city, I said, well, what do you do, this insurance stuff? And he kind of brought me in. And obviously I got my license and all that stuff. And I remember kind of sitting in all the different departments of the company, learning how to online quote and how to help guys with renewals and, how the carriers paid us and we had to pay the brokers. So I kind of learned all the little aspects of the company. But at the end of the day, my dad kind of came to me after my little training camp and he said, look, your job is going to be to get brokers to put business through us. How do you get their attention? How can you get them to realize that we, offer personal service and we're better than the corporate giants? So I started to I probably stared at the wall for about a month thinking about that. And then I realized that technology was going to be the way, that I could probably build some websites, because back then in 2001, 2002, there wasn't that many. And I could build some sites that maybe would generate some leads. And I figured that leads would get people's attention real fast. So believe it or not, I actually had a web address, NewJerseyHealthInsurance.com, and built the site there, had a few other addresses, and started to generate small group health leads pretty easily by using just Google pay-per-click. And back then, I remember we were paying 30 cents a click. Now it's probably $7. But anyway, started to generate a ton of leads, and started to go to producers who weren't really putting enough business through us. And I'd say, hey, look, if you sell any of these, put them through us, give us a try. And I started to create some relationships with some pretty good brokers. And as time went on, as we went through the 2000s, a lot of these producers would kind of come back to me and say, hey, those leads are okay, but gosh, it's 2004 now. I think I need my own agency website. These were obviously the best of the best, real forward-thinking producers. So I started to actually build them their own websites. And as time went on, it went from 10 to 50 to 100 websites that I had kind of built and was managing. And it went from just me to kind of 5 of us. I brought in some programmers. And long story short, as the 2000s kind of came to the end, obviously healthcare reform became a pretty big deal. And we were pretty certain that the type of company we had was probably not going to survive or would be significantly wounded by health insurance reform. So we ended up, my dad was getting older. He ended up selling the business. And when he sold the company, I had the option to kind of go to the company that bought us, and who knows what I was going to do. But long story short, I didn't see that as the greatest ship to jump on. I decided to kind of take a risk, and I took my 4 other, employees, and we started our own company. And, back then I always kind of knew that the key to success would be to keep it very niche oriented, keep it focused on the insurance industry, that there would probably be a temptation to build other types of websites. But at the end of the day, by kind of understanding the insurance industry, I always knew it would allow me to not be a yes man, an order taker. That's one of the biggest things that when I work with guys now, I listen to their story and I try to give them all the insight I have. At the end of the day, I've probably built 1,800 websites. Maybe they've built 1 or 2. So, I tell them that this is kind of a partnership and I'm here to get them results. And anyway, that's kind of been the key to my niche of my business, has been just kind of keeping my focus on the industry. And it just allows me to understand compliance. It allows me to understand kind of what's out there and what they probably need to be successful. And here we are today, 2020.
Yeah, no, that's a great story. And what's so interesting about this is, you think about there's all these third-party companies out there, either they're in the insurance space or they're in the technology, website building space, but it's very rare to find someone like you, Ken, that knows both sides. And
Right.
and that gets it, I think that's the key, and I think that's what makes you guys stand apart, is because you've been on both ends. You're not a third-party tech company from another part of the world, and you're speaking in different time zones and with different languages. And Ken has been in the trenches, both on the insurance space and on the tech and website space. So that's what I think makes his company unique, and he truly gets it. I think about what you just said too. Years ago, like let's say 2000, even the late 90s, early 2000s, our industry, and we were more on the life side, you were more on the health side, but our industry was so far behind like other industries, the auto industry, for example. And, I remember talking about like e-applications and websites and CRM tools, and everybody looked at us like we were nuts, like we had 3 heads. They said, oh, e-applications, agents are never going to use these. They're used to filling out, 38 pieces of paper, and they're just not going to make the transition. And you fast forward to today, and agents come to us and say, hey, if the carrier doesn't have an e-app, I'm not getting signed up. They don't even care what the rating is. So things have definitely changed. You obviously saw that. We saw that. And that's why we're both in the position we are today with our respective companies. So, there you have it. And, if you're an agent listening to this, that's why it's so important that you have to constantly think what's next. I feel like you have to have like two hats on. One is your day-to-day, operations, what your schedule looks like today. And then your second hat, it has to look in the opposite direction to say, okay, what's coming tomorrow? What's coming next month? What's coming next year? What if we have another crisis like what we're going through today, right? You have to always think, I don't care what business you're in, that has to be your mindset day in and day out. Okay, well, with that said, obviously we're in the middle of this crisis, pandemic, whatever you want to call it. I would love to hear your take on this, Ken, because you're obviously in the trenches. You're dealing with agents day in and day out. I just wanted to get your opinion on, what you're hearing and seeing from agents, any suggestions, advice you have, maybe success stories that came out of this whole thing. Just kind of what's your perspective on what's going on today?
I mean, my perspective at this point is that, most, depending on the products you offer, there are a large percentage of independent producers out there doing really well over the last 8 weeks. Whether you sell life insurance, Medicare, short-term health insurance, there's a tremendous need for that right now. So if you're, a producer who's home kind of saying, gosh, things have slowed down, that's probably a bad sign. Things are actually really, exploding right now in these products. Obviously, life insurance in general, just they've woken up and they're ready to talk. And, I think it's about positioning yourself to, be the expert out there who people think of when it's time to call somebody. And so anyway, number one, I see a surge in productivity by producers. But I also see a lot of producers out there kind of struggling to figure out what their new style is going to be. A lot of guys have relied on, I call it belly-to-belly meetings or doing local trainings, and they're kind of trying to figure out what's going to be the new way to get people's attention. And, I don't think there's any type of magical, light switch to flick to make it all work. I think anyone who's kind of trying to find that feel, it takes a lot of trial and error. And my best advice to anyone is to keep trying and to figure out what works for you. Certainly we'll probably go into a little bit more detail as we talk here. But anyway, that's kind of what I see.
Yeah, no. And that's funny you say that. That's exactly what we're seeing too. We had when this whole thing started a few months back, everyone's scratching their head, sleepless nights. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know if the carriers are going to pull out with certain products. You don't know if prospects can afford to pay for policies. I mean, everyone was squandering and thinking, oh my gosh, what is going to happen, including myself. It was pretty nuts because I've never lived through anything like this, not even close to this. So, we didn't know what to expect. And, again, you fast forward, our app count is higher than it's ever been. And we have certain agents, okay, and I'm going to give you one example. We had two prior podcast episodes, one with Emmanuel, one with Ian out of California. And these guys are in their 30s and 40s, and these podcasts were recorded before Corona was ever considered a virus. It was a freaking light beer, okay, for crying out loud. And these guys are saying, they're like 99% of my business is sold through my third bedroom home office online or over the phone. And those same guys today are skyrocketing, okay, especially Emmanuel and his group. They're crushing it. And it's just nuts to think these were the same guys that were proactive and had their Facebook ads running, social media marketing, their website looks great, they're e-blasting all their clients every week and keeping their name out there. So, the point is, yes, just like Ken said, the ones that were smart and put their right foot forward, they're doing better than ever. And the reason why, it's not a secret, but think about this. Everybody's home right now, okay? And you think about a typical family of four, husband and wife, two kids. Let's face it, they're at home. They're having lunch together. They're having dinner together. And they're all thinking, oh, my gosh, what if daddy or mommy, the breadwinner, get COVID-19 and they pass on? Are we going to be protected? Are we going to be able to go to college? Okay. And the question and the conversation is coming up, do we have life insurance or do we have enough life insurance? And who do we need to call to check this? Okay. And to get a quote. So that is happening every day, okay? And I'm seeing it more and more and more. So anyway, you need to make sure your name is out there. And I'm going to give you another example, and then we'll get into the second question here. Just yesterday, I see one of my agents sends me a Facebook message with a young guy, probably in his early 40s, and he put a 2-minute video together on Facebook. It's one of the Facebook ads that I always preach. I think it's so important. And it's just him in his office talking about living benefits insurance and how it's the new type of insurance that pays while you're alive. And what happens if you're disabled or get a critical illness or cancer, okay, or can't work anymore? Here's a policy that triggers and pays while you're alive. And the video was very touching, great background music, and he was very real, looking right into your eyes in the camera. And he used the GoFundMe strategy and basically saying, instead of looking for ways, let's say on GoFundMe, go fund yourself, right, and protect yourself with one of these living benefits, new types of life insurance policies. Anyway, it was an awesome video. He had like 100 comments, thousands of likes. Every one of those comments could be a new lead for you. Okay, you have to look at it like that. But my point is, now's the time to get scrappy. Okay, now's the time to put some great ideas together. I hope you're writing them down now. Get this video made. Okay, we have a guy that can create this video for you for literally $100. Okay, and if you get one lead from this, that could be $2-3 grand of commissions. So anyway, Ken's company can help you put all of this together. Obviously, he can't create the video for you, but he can help you get it out there on your social media platforms, on your website. But now's the time to start thinking like this, all right? I'm going to just go over. There's a couple Facebook statistics that I'm going to pull up. These are facts that you can pull up through Google right now. But think about this for a minute. 300 million people use Facebook stories daily. Okay, 300 million people use Facebook stories daily. 2.41 billion monthly active users, okay, on Facebook. That's the third most visited website in the world. Does that tell you need to be on Facebook marketing? Okay, there's 1.4 billion people using Facebook groups today. Okay, that tells me as a life insurance agent in the retail space, you need to make sure that you are seen on Facebook at the very minimum in your community, because you need to be known as, hey, it's Bill Levinson, the South Florida insurance guru. They're going to come to me with any quotes or question or that conversation at the dinner table 3 nights ago. They're going to remember Bill Levinson. Anyway, that's the way you need to think, okay? And I'm sure Ken can attest to this. Okay, all right, let's move forward. I get a little excited when it comes to that conversation. I just think it's such a if I was an insurance agent, it's so black and white, and you need to be on there to get attention. That's where the eyeballs are, and I see agents that are missing the opportunity here every day. So I can't stress that enough. All right, Ken, enough of my ranting here. If you, because obviously you built a very successful niche business and you've been on both sides of it and done very well for yourself at a young age, just like myself. So I give you a lot of kudos for that. But I always feel like, if you look back and you say, oh, maybe I could have or would have done this a little different or a little better. Is there anything, if you went back 15 years, that you would have told the younger Ken that maybe would have helped you even more with your success as one of the top website and social media companies today?
Yeah, I think the thing, and I tell all my clients this right now, just having that daily workout with social media to go into Facebook, to go into LinkedIn, and make sure that I'm inviting people that are target market or people I know or clients to be to be connected to me. I probably didn't start doing that religiously until about 2011. And to some of you that you might say, wow, 2011, that's a long time. Remember, social media has been around since about 2004. So that was about 6 years of waste. And I always tell guys, look, if you can just invite 3 guys a day on LinkedIn or Facebook to connect with you, 3 guys a day, that's, about 1,000 people a year. Well, 6 years, that's about 6,000 people, right? So that becomes a pretty big distribution pool that, you never can kind of get back because let's face it, with social media, just like you're saying, it's very powerful, it's very important. But on the flip side, we do sell insurance for a living. So we don't have 7 hours a day to sit there on social media and grow our distribution and do things. The guys who are really successful, they have systems where they're spending, 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, maybe 2-3 times a day, and they kind of do their diligence work. But yeah, if there was one thing to think back on, that's the thing I kind of wish I would have done, just because I would be so much. Right now, I have a pretty good large distribution. If I go onto LinkedIn and I post my podcast or I post an article, obviously I get a lot of results. It's going to about 10,000 people, but gosh, 20,000 would be better, right? So that's kind of how I'm always thinking, and that's one small thing that I definitely, the younger Ken should have been smart enough to kind of realize. Anyway.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's same exact thing with our company. I remember 20 years ago saying to all the marketers, employees, hey, you got to collect email addresses. It's so important. And I wish I would have been a little stronger with that and said, you know what, as important as a name, phone number, and address is an email address. And it's that same type of thinking. Yeah. And you all can learn from Ken and from myself, and you can do that now after today's podcast. Okay. Start connecting on LinkedIn and make sure your social media pages are up and running. If you meet someone on the street, the first thing you do, now obviously it's over Zoom or a webinar or social media, but the second you meet someone, you always have to start thinking email, okay? The days of the physical business card, that's just about over. But if you just think, hey, what's your email and social media username? That is the new business card. So yes, that's a great point. I love that. Okay, I'm going to switch gears a little bit here. Everybody knows that I'm a huge Tony Robbins fan. I love the motivational stuff. It changed my life. I feel like positive thinking is where it's at, glass half full instead of half empty. All of our fans and audience knows about me and how closely I follow all of his stuff, and I'm a big guru there. I want your take on this, Kent. Obviously, what you have done, I'm proud of, and I think you are also. I want to know what motivated you, mentally, physically, to get where you are today. And there's so many people in the space that don't make it. What was your little nugget that you stayed on top of?
Yeah, I guess it's a little personal, but I mean, I grew up kind of in a family business. So, on one end, that was a good thing, right? I had people supporting me, but on another end, you always kind of hear people going, well, he doesn't really know what he's doing because, his dad runs the company and blah, blah, blah. So I remember, kind of, like I said, when I came to that point back in kind of 2009, which ship do I jump on? Do I jump on the conservative choice? We'll go to a big company and probably have a paycheck, or do I roll the dice and let's see how smart I am kind of thing? And, that kind of has always stayed with me, that there was definitely a lot of people who said, websites, technology, you can't make money with that. He'll be done in 2 years. He'll be crawling back, and, obviously the funny thing is that other ship, it pretty much sunk. And, our ship is getting bigger every day. And, at the end of the day, I think the key is, like any business, it's about having good relationships with people and trying to listening to kind of how they do things and just to try to make sure you can really help them. Because even though the website might feel very faceless, it really shouldn't. Your social media presence, your website should kind of be the virtual version of you, and it should have personality, and it should kind of let people know why they want to work with you. And I think that's a big part of what I always try to, anyone who's new coming to me, I try to push them in that direction, that sometimes it's not about bells and whistles. Sometimes it's about other little things that, let people know who you truly are.
Yeah. Yep. Good point. And I think what, especially some of the more veteran type of agents, and I know you've heard this, but I think you have to have the mindset moving forward. Your website, your social media platforms, that's your brick and mortar. It's like if you were, a McDonald's franchisee and you were trying to pick the best location in South Florida, you want to be on University Drive on a corner intersection where there's tons of traffic and you're seen all the time, and you want the cleanest store and the cleanest restrooms, and you want to make sure everyone's uniform looks great. That's your website
Right.
and your social media platform. Right?
The best analogy the best analogy I always give guys is think back in 2005. If you had a hole in the wall because someone punched a hole in the wall, would you just leave that hole there as people come into your office? No, you'd be like, I'm accountable. This is my first impression. I got to make sure that everything looks good so people want to do business with me. Fast forward to 2020, you have to have that same attitude with your website and social media. People are going to hold you accountable for how it looks. And I hear it time and time again from producers who will say, they'll tell me how great they are. Oh, I'm the best life insurance agent in the country and I sell Medicare. I'll go to their LinkedIn profile and it says, oh, you work for a real estate agency and you do residential real estate. Oh, yeah, I haven't looked at that in a while. No one cares about that, but they do care. Like if you've talked to a new prospect and you tell them how great you are, they're going to do some diligence on you. They're going to Google you. They're going to find your website and, okay, he does life insurance. And then they're going to find your LinkedIn profile. Well, wait a minute. It says he does real estate. Doesn't say he does any life insurance. Well, that doesn't add up. It's the same picture. This is that guy. That's the kind of stuff that if you're not accountable for how you're presenting yourself virtually, in the end, it's going to have, a negative effect on how people perceive you.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think like the biggest misconception is, agents think that, oh yeah, I have my platforms up and running and, I get one new follower or one new like and it's not even a big deal. I'm not going to pay attention to it. Who cares if it says I'm still in the real estate game when now I'm in the insurance game? I have one follower anyway. Well, the one follower, turns out to be 3 followers, and they have friends and family and referrals that ultimately can come over to you. So you have to take that very serious. One person is one more person than you had yesterday, and the one turns into 100. And it turns into 1,000, and it keeps going from there. And I know for a fact because that's how Levinson and Associates was born, and that's how we've grown into what we are today, exactly with that mindset and thinking. So that's so important, what Ken just touched on. It's huge. Okay, I have one more personal question, and then we'll get into back to business. I just want everyone to listen and learn from 2 guys that obviously built something special and are doing great. What motivates you every day to do the best you can and get bigger and better? On a personal level, on the business side, is there any keys that you can share with the audience, Ken? Whatever, anything.
Number one, I always kind of have had. I'm a big jogger, right? So I'm always out there every morning jogging, and I always kind of live my job life like that as well. And I always kind of explain to my clients that they need to have that mentality, that runner's mentality, that every day you kind of get up. Doesn't matter if you're tired. Doesn't matter if you're a little sore. And you kind of go and you do your thing. And in the long run, you're better for that. You're feeling better, and it puts you in a position that if you have to, you have to sprint, you're not going to be lying on the ground destroyed. And I guess the comparison or the analogy is it's the same kind of concept with your website and your social media presence. If you go in and you do a little bit each day and you stay quote unquote in shape, you're going to be able to do so much more than the guy who does nothing and then he tries to sprint one day. And yeah, maybe he can run pretty good, but who knows if he can even get out of bed the next day because he's so, crippled from that experience. So, yeah, I guess what I'm trying to say is that my motivation is always to try to be as consistent as possible. And, I try to talk to every new person who's interested in our services to understand their story and what they're trying to accomplish, whether they just started yesterday or whether they've been in business for 65 years. I find that I can probably help about 85% of them, but I give each and every one of them a chance to kind of tell me how they're doing things and what their style is. And I think there's a solution for all of them. And that's always my main motivation is to to be able to be creative with them and figure out something that's going to work with them. And I think that's probably the best thing I can say to some people on today's call who maybe have never had a website and they don't feel like they're the most technological geniuses out there. You don't have to be. There's a website for you that can be designed to your comfort level. And, you start with that, and then as time goes on, you evolve and you start adding things as you get more comfortable with it. In my opinion, that's probably the most important thing I could tell you, because, if you go to a company that gives you this crazy website with a million bells and whistles and all this technology that integrates with your smartphone and you have no clue how to use it, you've wasted your money. Totally valueless. So that's always kind of my motivation, is to keep guys focused on what's realistic and then to grow from that.
Yeah, no. That's a good point. And I always preach the same exact thing. I work out 5-6 days a week, and it's the same exact analogy for business, for personal, consistency, persistency. That's what gets you in shape. That's what builds a business. It's the same thing over and over and over and over. And you make your little tweaks along the way. You keep building and growing, and it doesn't matter what side you're on. Okay, but it's the same mentality that builds a successful business. Okay, and it's like, and I'm sure, Ken, you've probably dealt with this too, but you have some days, I'm sure, where you go jogging. I don't know if it's before work or after, but you probably wake up and say, oh my gosh, another day I got to go run, 5 miles, 7 miles, whatever it is. I am not in the mood for this. And by the time you're done, you feel like $1 million, and you're like, you know what? This was one of the best runs I ever had, and I didn't even feel like lacing up my shoes in the morning before I started. It's the same mentality with your website, social media, with your business, making your calls, sending out your e-blasts, posting online. Same exact process, and I'm sure Ken can agree with that. Okay, all right. Let's. We're going to go back to business here. I want everyone to know, Ken. Obviously, we know what you do today with the business and how you do a great job. In my opinion, you're one of the best out there. As far as where you are today, and then what direction you want to go in the future, is your goal basically to just keep on bringing on, of course, the right agents and agencies and helping make them more successful? Is that pretty much the goal?
Yeah, I mean, of course, like any business, we're looking to grow. But I think most importantly in the technology world, you always have to evolve as well. And, I have some pretty smart guys that obviously work for me, and guys that I go to and get consulting from on kind of where's it all going? What's the latest and greatest coming? So that's kind of my challenge as a business owner, is to make sure I keep investing in my technology and keep kind of having new innovative tools that can help my clients. And, I have, I would say I have at least 150 to 200 clients that have been with me since the mid-2000s, when I originally built their websites back with another company. And, I mean, if you looked at their website in 2005 to compare to 2015, it's not even in the same ballpark. And it's not because I was bad in 2005. It's just because the technology has evolved so much. We're probably heading into a world in the next few years where we can build actual artificial intelligence into these websites, where, the consumer could come to the site and we can program in, greetings, and how they answer could then, obviously spit back out, appropriate answers. All that's going to be possible where, literally your website is working for you and alive 24/7. Certainly now you can have chatbots on there, but there's some manual interaction. It could all be automated, before you know it. And, I think my point is, and I think you've mentioned it a few times, this is why you got to keep moving now, because if you do nothing and you're frozen sitting there looking around, in 3-4 years, if you try to jump into that game, it's going to be, very hard to catch up. And anyway, so my goal, of course, is to obviously make sure that my company keeps moving as well and is able to upgrade as the technology becomes available.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, Ken. I remember our first conversation. We were talking, going back and forth, because we obviously have to vet, whatever third-party company before introducing you guys to our agents. because it's our name and reputation on the line and everything else. And you said one thing that I said to myself, this guy gets it. And you said, and I didn't even ask for this or ask you the question. You said to me, Bill, we take about 25% of our fees and invest them back in to the platform's technology and investing back into the business to build things to come and what's in the future. And I loved to hear that. Okay. And I didn't even ask for that. You just told me that. And that to me, as far as any business goes, is crucial. And you as agents should be thinking like that. Ken thinks like that and actually does it. We do the same thing. And you as agents should be investing back into yourself and your technology. And the proof in the pudding is what we're dealing with right now with COVID-19. Okay, if you think back, if you would have invested into better technology, websites, social media marketing, you probably would have been in a little different place like Emmanuel and Ian. Okay, just think about that. So anyway, let's learn from the past and make the right decisions moving forward. All of us, okay, including myself. Okay, this is probably my favorite question of the podcast today, and I think everybody is itching to hear this from you, is any good success stories? You don't have to mention any names or companies, but is there anything you can share with us, a good agent success story that maybe, they came to you and obviously they're using your services and now they've grown because of it? Anything you can share?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. Like I said, it's not that I just kind of started this business a few years ago. I've kind of, obviously I've been in the business for about 20 years now, and to me, it's all the same. It's always been helping agents market products and grow. And, I remember meeting guys back when I was a 24-year-old kid and they were 24, and obviously now they're still going, and they went from just being a little young kid who, maybe got his start at MetLife or something, selling life insurance, and now has a full-scale agency with 15 employees. But I think for them, their key has always been retention and referrals, and that's kind of something I always stress to anyone who comes to me. I say, look, if your goal is to generate, quick price shopper leads, your goal is wrong. You're not going to make it. The goal is to generate referrals and to be able to get people, obviously in your inner circle, to always think of you when that moment is right, when they're at the barbecue and they hear that that Karen is buying a house and, the mortgage is going to be a lot and they're worried about what happens to Tom. Can Karen pay the mortgage? Well, you got to talk to this guy. He's the expert. So anyway, I think in general, that's my general answer is I've seen a lot of guys go from nothing to something, whether they were young, whether they were old, but all those guys always had the mindset of, I got to build a business where I'm really focused on retaining my business and generating referrals, not after kind of the quick price shoppers who they're here today, they're gone tomorrow. I do have one success story, and basically I have a client, believe it or not, at this point he's actually 85 years old, and he specializes in Medicare and life insurance, and he's up in, no offense, but he's up in the middle of Idaho somewhere, and, long story short, this guy has had many careers, and, he got bored. He got bored in retirement somewhere around, I think he said in his early 70s, and he got back into the insurance business back in probably 2005, and, he kind of struggled for a while because obviously the drives are pretty long in Idaho, right? You don't just drive around the corner to the next city. He might have had to be. He said, I remember him telling me he's driving through the mountains 3 or 4 hours, and it kind of clicked in his mind that, hey, maybe I should do this a little bit more virtually. And I ran into him in about probably 2012, and I remember him telling me, I'm 74 years old. I don't know how much longer I'm going to be doing this, but I love it. It gets me energized. And I said, well, you need a website. We got to get away from driving around town. And I taught him how to use GoToMeeting and got him a website, got him going with social media. Took him a little longer than, the average guy to kind of figure it out. But, at this point, he's still going. He has quite a few of online enrollment portals on there for his health insurance, for Medicare, so for various other products. All he does is, screen sharing, and he's still going strong. So I guess my point is, anybody can do this. It's just about commitment. It's about having the energy and the understanding that you do have to learn. And, the number one thing I always kind of tell people is they always come to me and say, well, I'm a little skeptical about social media. And I say, well, look, to be honest, you're not going to ever figure it out until you educate yourself on how it works and how it's really, really what's going on. If you think you can just pay somebody to do it, well, it's never going to probably work for you, because even if they get results for you, you probably won't even realize it. So step one is to get some sort of basic, education on it. I'm not saying you have to become an absolute, guru, but just have a basic understanding of how to get new connections, how to post to people, what a message is, what type of strategy you probably want to be implementing from a posting standpoint. If you can understand that, then you can probably bring in smarter people than you to take you to the next level. And I think that gentleman in Idaho is a great, kind of a great example of that. He knew what he knew, and he knew what he didn't know. And he spent some time working on it. He, learned how to use screen sharing. And, as we keep going here, he's hanging in there, and he's still enjoying it. So anyway.
I love that. I love that story. And we have a similar agent, Wally, who was on our last episode, that is very similar, a little bit younger, but he talks about this all the time, using e-apps now, social media, website, and he said, Bill, I'm never retiring. This sparked a whole new side of him, and in fact, he will tell you this to your face. He's more successful now than ever, and he's in his mid 70s now. So there you have it. There's no excuse. All right, that was awesome. And you're listening to us speak, by the way, and Ken's got some great stories. And I don't want you to think, oh, this is some long 45-minute commercial on how you need to sign up with Ken. Because first of all, the bottom line is, at the end of the day, as long as you're writing business, okay, with us, with not, whatever, it doesn't matter, okay. It's our job to provide the value, okay? Ken isn't sitting here saying, sign up with him, and then you call 800 social media when we're done, and you pay, $10,000 up front and $1,000 a month. No. It doesn't work like that. First of all, if you're an active Levinson agent, his package, the elite package, the discounted price is $99 a month with no upfront fees. Okay, no gray area, no small print. That's for a professional WordPress-looking website with social media marketing and your interview. Okay, you're not going to find that anywhere. So if you want to use Levinson and Ken, great. If you're using your own, that's fine too, and you walk away with some ideas, no problem. Okay, but I just want to lay that out there so everyone understands. It's not like we're doing this because, it's some infomercial and we're trying to pitch, a $10,000 program. So at the end of the day, there is nothing else like this, especially at the pricing and the value that Ken brings to the table. But we'll leave that there, and then I have just two more questions, and then we're going to wrap up this episode. But I think these are important. So, Ken, let's say, once the agent, okay, let's say they sign up for the elite package, $99 a month, can you just give everyone an overview on kind of what that includes and Sure. If you can share that, that would be great.
Yeah, and just to kind of give even a bigger overview, I think step one is always, I love talking to people. And, before you start signing up and stuff, I offer it to anyone. Let's just talk for about 10 minutes. I'd love to kind of chat through your situation, what your focus is, and what your goals are. I am a very blunt man. If I can help you, I will give you every idea that I'm going to implement before you've signed up. And obviously, if we agree that that's the way to go, we'll work together. But if I don't think I can help you and I think your ideas are maybe not realistic or that I don't think they're going to work, I'll tell you that as well, and I'll try to point you in the right direction. Once I feel I can help you, yes, then I'll have you sign up for the elite package. Again, it's a month-by-month contract, $99.99 a month. And basically, we'll build you a brand-new custom website, and we'll get you set up with a Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter business presence for your insurance agency. Most of you guys probably have that already. That's fine. We'll go in and just kind of tune up what you have on the social media side. And then Monday through Friday, we will post educational content based on the products you sell to the social media. So it's kind of like we're providing the activity part of the social media. So again, we have a website package. It starts out that we'll do about a 30-minute interview, and we'll talk really in depth on what your product focus is, what your style is, how you do things. It's my goal to build you a functional site, something that you can use every day so it makes you more efficient, so you have, so you have reasons to get the consumer on your site. If you can get people on your site, it's going to be a lot easier for you to cross-sell them products. A lot of people will typecast you in the insurance industry. Oh, this guy just does life insurance. They don't know you do retirement. They don't know you do Medicare. If you get them on the site, they now see the whole portfolio of what you do. So my goal when talking to you is to figure out, all right, what are some things that you do every day in the drudgery of your career that I can build into the site that's going to save you time and give you some excuses to get people on there. So we'll do an interview, talk it out. I'll come up with some ideas. I'll write all the content. I'll come up with all the pictures. Give me about 4 or 5 days. I'll build out the whole thing, and I'll send it to you and say, look, this is what I came up with. Let's go through it. Change whatever you want to change. Polish whatever you want to polish. You can use whatever domain name you want. If you don't have a web address, I'll help you find one. And we have you up and running in about 5 or 6 days. In the middle of all that, we get you set up with social media, and we start posting for you. Now, of course, social media, there's a lot of levels to that. I kind of always try to explain we're doing level 1. We're getting the pages built. We're going to provide you with kind of weekly training on how you should be using it. I do my own podcasts, my own videos that you'll have access to. So hopefully you can work on your own distribution list, get a lot of people following the pages, and we're there to post to drip on all those people. That's kind of level 1 of Facebook, social media in general, and that's what we're providing in that $99.99 package. Now, if you want to go to level 2 and you want to start doing some pay ads and be real aggressive, you certainly can do that at any time. We are there to offer you kind of coaching. It's an additional cost based on how much coaching you need, but that is there. We are there to help you. But yeah, like I said, in general, our goal is to build you something that's more than just a shiny billboard. I want to make sure that everything we design, you're aware of what's there and what the purpose of it is. And, like I said, from start to finish, we're looking at about 5 to 7 business days to have you completely going. And like I said, we're very blunt. If we can help you, we're here. If we can't, we're going to tell you why. And I think everyone appreciates that. Anyway.
Yeah, no, that was perfect. Hey, Ken, can you just explain if somebody wants to do the 30-minute coaching session for the ads where you actually record it and then send it to them if they want to go back for reference, can you explain how that works?
Sure. So
and with our discounted price?
Yeah, just to kind of give you some history on that. So again, I kind of started this company really back in 2009. And when I started, I just did websites. But I did my weekly podcasts about social media. And immediately after 2 weeks, my clients would call up and go, Ken, this social media stuff, I've been going on your trainings. This stuff seems important. But, I don't have time to do it myself. It's just me. I'm an independent agent. So I came out in 2010 with this, we'll call it a social media management service, where I needed to help my clients stay active, to keep it moving. Because again, like I said before, the consumer holds you accountable for this stuff. If you haven't posted on your Facebook page in 3 years, that doesn't look good. So that's kind of where it started. And then as time has gone on here in the 2010s or whatever, obviously advertising has started to become popular. And what started to happen is a lot of my clients would call me up and say, hey, look, I'm trying to set up a Facebook ad. I've heard that this is important. And unfortunately, it became very time consuming, where I would need to talk to them for hours. And I said, look, I love you, but for $99.99 a month, I can't be talking to you for 4 hours a week. It's not fair. So what I decided to do was I said, look, here's the option. If you want my time and you want to do this the right way, we can set up like a 30 or 60-minute screen sharing session where I'll help you set up the first ad, and I'll tell you everything I know. Am I guaranteeing every result possible? Absolutely not. But like I said before, it starts out with educating yourself on how it all works. And Facebook advertising, it definitely takes a few trials and errors. So my goal is to kind of give you a 30 or 60-minute session where we'll share screens, we'll set up the ad together. Of course, I will record it and send you over kind of like a YouTube of it. So, hopefully after we've done this 30-minute session, you can fly out of the nest and fly strong yourself, because in my opinion, this stuff isn't actually that hard. Using Facebook on a daily basis is probably a lot harder than actually setting up an ad. So anyway, we do have some special pricing for that. As a Levinson broker, if you needed a 30-minute session, it's $75. If you needed a 60-minute session, it's $125. Now, if you were not a Levinson broker, just to give you some comparison, I do get people like kind of quote unquote off the street who say, "Hey, I hear you're the best at this. Can you coach me?" We charge them $125 for 30 minutes, and for an hour we charge them $175. So obviously, as a Levinson producer, you get some pretty good discount pricing on that. And of course, it's always easier. It's always easier if I'm currently helping you with a website and your social media to, understand the full model and really what the ad needs to be successful. Anyway.
Yeah, no. That's perfect. So think about this. At the very minimum, $99 a month with the discounted pricing. And then if you wanted to do, let's say, that 30-minute coaching session for running your own Facebook ads, where I think that is money well spent, $75. That's it. So there you have it. I mean, it doesn't get any easier than that. And I don't know of another company, especially like Ken's company, that will operate at that kind of pricing. So there you have it.
And Bill, I can't stress again that all this stuff sounds good, but make no mistake, our main goal here is to kind of educate you so that you can kind of do some of this stuff yourself. Because at the end of the day, that is the true path forward. This is not going away. I remember back in 2005, I had an agent look me dead in the face and said, "This social media silly stuff will be gone in 2 years." Well, guess what? It's 2020, 15 years later, and it's bigger, stronger, and more powerful than ever. So you got to have that mentality that you got to understand how it works. You got to be able to hold yourself accountable on how you use it. And if you do, you're going to be better off long term. I always tell people, look, I don't care about LinkedIn or Facebook. I don't love them, but it's the reality of how people talk right now. And I'm in sales just like you. I got to be able to use communication tools to be able to run my business. If you can't talk to people and communicate with them, good luck selling them anything.
Yeah. No, that's spot on. The perfect example is my grandma, who's 94 years old in a assisted living facility. She doesn't even call or send text messages for happy birthdays. She now is, of course, our friend on Facebook and sends a happy birthday message to everyone in the family. Okay, 94 years old. She's on Facebook more than her eyes are open during the day. I mean, it's every minute of the day, and she's at her age. So just think about where the eyeballs are. You have to be, and we're here to help you do that, especially with Ken and his company. All right, so we're going to wrap up here. Is there anything that you want to leave the audience with, Ken, before we put a bow on this?
Again, I can't stress enough that, the key to success is just to kind of keep moving, right? Just kind of that runner's mentality, whether it's with social media, constantly getting more people following you, constantly posting and dripping. It doesn't mean you have to have an Olympian effort where you're going crazy every day for 50 hours. That's probably the biggest misconception out there is that, I don't have, it's going to be so time consuming. It really doesn't have to be. It really, if it's done right, it's kind of like 3 to 10 minutes a day. But it's that attitude of I got to put in my 3 to 10 minutes. And if you can do that every day, you're going to be strong. And we offer you the pieces to the puzzle to utilize that stuff. And I think that's the best way to look at the entire puzzle of what it takes to be successful now.
Love it. That was spot on. We also have a landing page you can find on our Levinson and Associates website, levinsonassociates.com. And obviously, we can get you started. We'll make the introduction to you and Ken and make sure that you're up and running 100%. And I'll mention a couple other things, and then we'll wrap this up. By using the website, the social media platforms, I suggest you running an ad, okay? Think about some of these door openers, like let's say Insure Me Now Direct, Amazon for insurance, using that platform, okay, to basically say to these prospects, hey, you can click here, run a quote, buy insurance online, get an instant approval, and print your policy in less than 7 minutes, and you can choose from 16 different products. If you can market that message out there to the masses, you're going to drive traffic. If you use our scholarship program, 1 year free scholarship, if you purchase one of my products starting at $7 a month, okay, people are going to look. They're going to ask questions. It's going to make the phone ring, or it's going to generate an email to you. So you need to think like this, okay? If you're 17 years old or 87 years old, it doesn't matter. If you know social media like the back of your hand, great. Okay, Ken will help you with your website. He'll help you with your social media pages. If you're 86 and you barely know how to spell LinkedIn, that's okay too. He's also going to help you, and you can use all of our door openers to get the message out. Okay, I think the bottom line is, if you're listening to this right now, you're focusing on your day-to-day sales. I'm sure you're picking up the phone and calling everyone you know to make sure that they're healthy right now during COVID-19, which is all great. Focus on your day-to-day activities that got you to the place you are today, but have all of this running on autopilot in the background. That is the key takeaway here. It's consistency, persistency, day in and day out, starting with a follower, a like, and building that ultimately to 20 and 50 and 100. And next thing you know, you get a call saying, hey, my friend saw your post on Facebook and I want more information, okay? That is how you need to think post-COVID and to build your practice now and in the future. With that said, have a wonderful rest of the day. Hope you are happy and healthy and stay safe. Ken, thank you so much. This was one of my favorites. Again, reach out for more information, and good selling. Take care, and thank you all again for taking the time.
Thank you for joining us for the Bill Levinson Experience. Please feel free to share this podcast with anyone you think would be interested. You may also visit levinsonandassociates.com and all of Bill Levinson's social media pages for more information.